Here we are for Roger Smith News, and we've got Danika-Australia, and she's addressing, perhaps, maybe you could say something about Australia and why, about your family, and you were in Australia, and,
Right.
and our interest in Australia is kind of thing.
Very.
Yeah.
So I am an Australian citizen. I spent my first 12 years in Sydney, and when I was 12, my family moved to London. So I have a very warm relationship with the country, with Sydney, and still have a lot of friends there, a lot of dear friends. So here I find myself in New York, and working with Fran Hagen on developing the Australian market. And it's like a full circle.
Or the Australian New York culture, because it's
Right. Well,
market indicates some sort of a business deal when in fact we're trying to
Right.
Engage in each other's culture. I think.
Part of it, a large part of it is developing that relationship. We have a lot of I can't do this.
Sure you can. Yeah, well, you've got the artists.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I know you don't. But
I've no idea.
but we've got the artists, and we've got this wonderful relationship with the University of Sydney because of Fran,
Yeah.
who's her specialty is presumably, if you said communication, you wouldn't be wrong. It's getting to know people, be useful for people, and for my money, it's the engagement in the community. The Australian community, to become, if you will, friends in some way, probably very specific ones. We have a hotel in Manhattan with 136 rooms, but we also will try to engage in the interesting things that are interesting about us, about them. So,
Well, perhaps
and you're a spokesman or a player there. So, and you're part of the reason we're doing it is because you are Australian. Ta-ta, but you're actually English.
some people would disagree,
Yeah,
but
actually
I
English.
say if you've got the passport, you're halfway there.
Yeah, with a passport.
Yes.
You don't look like Crocodile Dundee.
I do not.
Yeah. Well,
On the weekends.
that's right.
Yeah, well, the point is that we're doing a lot of interesting stuff here, and we think that
Come on, what's an Australian like?
what's an
You want to
Australian...
profile an Australian?
I'm not
Embarrass
gonna,
somebody?
No.
Embarrass somebody like yourself? I mean, what's Kookaburra like? Up in the hills, right?
Oh, a kookaburra.
Kookaburra, what's that all about? What's
A kookaburra. Is a bird. A kookaburra is a bird.
Uh-huh.
There was a song growing up. I don't remember it exactly, but it goes something like, "Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree, bushes sing, laugh, laugh, kookaburra, laugh, kookaburra, gay your life must
Okay.
be."
Yeah, you heard it first, folks. Yeah. But the lore. What about the lore? I mean, is it true that they're all what do they call them? Slaves, not slaves.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
but,
Well, I mean,
they're all
the original
criminals.
Australians
Is this
come
continue?
from England,
Yeah.
and they are all criminals.
Yeah, or
that's
inventive
what-
people anyway who were caught in the act or something.
Yeah, they didn't have a choice.
It
They got
would
shipped
indicate
over.
great creativity.
Really? I mean, crime? Criminals
Well, imagine.
creative?
I don't know. I'm
Or maybe just very stupid.
very stupid.
Or
huh?
desperate.
Yeah, maybe just
Don't know.
who knows. But anyway, Australia has little corners in it. Being one of them, the Northwest. Is it the Northwest? New South Wales.
New
is
South
right.
Wales.
That's where
New
we're
South
trying.
Wales, and Sydney is the capital of New South Wales.
Yes. And where are the opals?
Where are the opals?
Where are the opals? The gems and jewels that are taken from. You don't know that. So where's the opera house then? If you
It's
don't
in
know that,
Sydney.
it's in Sydney. You ever been
On
to the
the
opera?
harbour. Many times, many times.
Like,
Yes.
can you remember even one?
Can I remember even one?
Yes.
From my youth, when I was young, we used to go. You know, they'd have the ones for kids where you had like the massive subtitles. It was usually most operas are sad, terribly sad, but you know, the occasional sort of really joyous, you know, Gilbert and Sullivan
Yeah.
esque.
Did you play in that? Did you get a role in one of those?
Oh no! Oh, I was not. I fancied myself an actress. I often played, you know, the tree or the rock.
Well, for what it's worth, we have great opera in New York City.
That is
so I transfer
right.
that to. That's a common ground for the Sydneyan. What do they call them?
Yes.
Sydneyan, Sydneyite.
Sydney-siders.
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 But isn't there a monorail in Sydney?
There was. No longer. I
No.
think they've taken it down this year or next year.
And what's the problem?
I think it got old. I think they've had enough.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't working in the way that it was initially intended to.
Well, common ground in New York, you can come here and you can ride the elevated here. So that's another reason for an Australian to
Basically
come
go
to New
that way
York.
or that way.
Is that we have the vertical elevators, but we also have the elevated railroads. I mean, elevated
the High
subways.
Line. Yes.
And the subways up into the Bronx, they're all elevated. You don't
That's
know that.
true.
You've never been out there.
I've been to
But the other way, go out to Coney Island, for instance. And I think they're all, anyway, elevated throughout the city. So since Sydney has now removed them or is in the process of them, come to New York. But what else shall we talk about? Shall we talk about the interesting connection between China and Australia? That Australia is an English-speaking country, and Chinese come to Australia and learn about English and everything else. Is there not?
Well, I think it's the closest Western country, and I think they see there, being a lot of opportunity there, and they love it. They love it.
And we've started up a relationship with Nikki Chen,
Mm-hmm.
who was a student was a student or is a student, master's student at University of Sydney.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because it connects a Shanghai connection. Have you ever been to Shanghai?
I have been to Beijing
Beijing.
with Fran's daughter, Grace.
With
Actually,
Grace.
she was studying
Okay.
there, so I went to go and visit her.
Okay, good.
So, yes.
And Fran, to you is?
Fran
Hagen?
Fran Hagen is, you mean personally?
Yeah.
Fran Hagen is one of my parents' very, very closest, oldest, very dearest friends. And she's been a few times to New York to come and visit with them and without them.
And actually, she's playing a role because we're people.